players in this long saga. Harold Godwinson. After Edward the Confessor's death on the 4th of January 1066, Harold, after a long period of mourning, became king on the 6th of January. He was king of a lot of Angles and Saxons who were originally from the northern part of Germany. William, Duke of Normandy. Son of a previous duke, William ruled over Normandy, which was in effect its own country, full of Vikings, hence the name Norman and then D. So the Battle of Hastings was fought between Germans and Vikings, plus a large number of mercenaries that William had got from all over Europe. William's claim to the English throne was pretty weak. Basically, a couple of years earlier, Harold had been shipwrecked off the coast of Normandy. As a house guest of William, Harold was forced to swear an oath of fealty, a bit like a wedding vow, promising to love, honour and obey William in all things. Most importantly, hand over the English crown. They probably both knew that this was a farce, but it provided at least an excuse for William to invade. Which brings us to the third player in our saga. We shall call him Eric de Blonville, and he hails from Blonville-sur-Mer on the Normandy coast. Eric is an ancestor of mine, and we know that they came to England at the time of the invasion, or probably after the battle. In those days, people were named after their trade or based on where they came from. Our famed boxer, for example, Henry Cooper, would have been a barrel maker, or might have been called simply Henry of Lambeth, where he was born. So other names may have been Simon the Smith, Ulysses the Undertaker, or Fiona the Fornicator. I can imagine Eric sitting at the bar and his mate Norris the Nark rushing in to say, "It is war. We are invading Angleterre. Money, women, booze. You coming?" Eric, "Okay." September 1066. Harold and his army had been waiting all summer on the south coast for William to arrive. They were all tanned and healthy. Then in early September they heard that Harold Hardrada, King of Norway, had invaded in the north of England. Packing his sun cream, he was heard to moan, "No Beaujolais Nouveau this year, then." They marched up to Stamford Bridge and defeated Hardrada and his Vikings on the 25th of September. This is the Stamford Bridge in Yorkshire and not the one populated by those in blue. Harold might have lost to them. Meanwhile, William had landed his fleet on the 28th of September in Pevensey and set about pillaging round the area. So, it was here 950 years ago that William landed his boats. This is Pevensey Bay. And as you can see, it hasn't really changed much over the years. Could that be one of his boats? No, because once they'd landed, William ordered all the boats to be burned to commit his troops to the action. That's where the phrase "burning your boats" comes from. Harold was in York on the 1st of October when he got the news and immediately set off down to Hastings. It is important to note that most of Harold's army were made up of a fyrd, who were farmers and workers most of the time, but once a year were obliged to give 2 weeks of military service to the army, if required. This meant that many of them didn't need to go to Hastings, which might have left the army rather weak. They arrived in the vicinity of Hastings on October the 13th, which was actually a Friday. Not a good omen. So here we are in battle. I find it highly ironic that the Battle of Hastings didn't actually take place in Hastings. In fact, it should be called the Battle of Battle. What? Eh? Well, apparently, it wasn't known as battle until after the battle. Still doesn't really explain why it was called the Battle of Hastings, when Hastings is about 6 miles away, but there you go. That's history, isn't it, for you? History, yes. So here we are in Battle. As you can see, there are lavish preparations here, including the bunting that you can see in front of you. In fact, as far as I can tell, the bunting is the only preparation for next weekend. This was built under William's orders after the battle had taken place, and I actually worked here in 1978 as a guide stroke lecturer. That doesn't mean that I had a stroke after being a guide. It meant they had 2 titles. I was actually interviewed along with 35 or so other people for one of the 4 positions as guide lecturer, and I was obviously extremely well qualified, having failed my history O-level, and they subsequently offered me the job, which I took. So it's strange to think that where my ancestors fought so valiantly to invade England, I returned to tell people all about it. An old English telephone box. Look what the bloody Normans did to this, eh? God.